See. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started with the Q&A. We're going to go over the rules and kind of general guidelines that we have first, and then we will talk more about the questions that were sent in via the Facebook post, and then we'll open it up for live questions if anybody has any follow-up questions or wants to kind of touch base. And if there's anything you can think of that you don't want to lose, you can always put it in the chat, and we'll try to track that as we're going. If it's something that we're didn't cover, we'll get back to it at the end with the live questions. So, yeah, jumping right in. So, the Horse Fair Show series was created as a positive reinforcement horse show. Um, Both Destiny and I do positive reinforcement pretty exclusively with our training horses and our own training businesses. I am in Western Kentucky, and Destiny is in Oak Harbor, Washington State. And we really excited about this because we both come from show backgrounds, and are really looking forward to kind of having fun with our first horse show. So it's definitely a little bit of uncharted territory, I think, in terms of a horse show that is really focused on welfare and emotion at the forefront of the classes. So as we're designing them, as we're designing this judging criteria, we are actively trying to figure out how to fairly define that and keep it systematic and as objective as possible. So the first real segment in our guidelines is the welfare standards. So talking about, the soundness of the athlete, both mentally and physically. And one thing that we wanted to make sure that we included were horses that maybe aren't, totally comfortable with ridden work, but are still happy to participate in unridden work. And, um, if they're older, if they've had an injury, or if they have compensation or are recovering, this is hopefully still something that you'll be able to do with those horses at various, stages in their life and development. Destiny, do you want to add anything into like the physical welfare aspects or things that we've kind of gone over?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit a lot of it, of really just trying to give an opportunity for those that maybe don't fit into the traditional horse show frame, and some that do too, right? Like we want it to be a place for both crossover horses as well as primary positive reinforced horses, and giving a place for those that necessarily can't be ridden, um, as well as working our way up. We want to kind of be able to branch out and touch on potentially doing some obstacle classes, even as much as like over fences or dressage based classes later on. Sky's the limit.
We have a lot of fun ideas coming up, so we'll get into that a little bit more too, as far as what we're looking at for future patterns and shows and that sort of thing. Um, the other thing I think, as we're getting into sort of the welfare and the emotional state aspect, was there were some questions on like, well, how do we use the reinforcement and when do we use the reinforcement, and how much can we click or mark or feed, and that is part of the judging criteria is the horse's emotional state and the handler's ability to sort of adapt to what that horse might need in the moment. So where you might get good marks for really nailing the pattern and executing the pattern, if the horse is, seems a little bit anxious or tense, or, is somewhat dysregulated, the judges are watching to see sort of how the handler reacts to that. Like, we don't necessarily put as much emphasis maybe on like the technical execution of the pattern, as the judges are looking for like, okay, maybe there was a little wobble here, maybe the horse looked at something, maybe the horse was a little worried about something. They're also taking into consideration the handler's awareness of that, of those instances too. So we're not necessarily looking for like the perfect pattern. We don't need it to look mechanic, so much as like, we know horses are horses. They're animals with a lot of feelings. Um, and we're okay with seeing that. And the judges are okay with seeing that. We would love to see sort of how you work through that with your horse, if something doesn't go perfectly, because rarely do they. So that's one of the things that's really cool is, it's we all get a little, I think, excited or maybe a little rigid when we go into these performance settings, even if it's in our backyard in front of a camera. Um, So just looking for the softness and looking for the relaxation and the willingness to try even, because these classes were formatted to be like goals and guidelines and you're receiving feedback, which is, we think it's kind of a cool way to like practice in the show setting and be in the show setting, but still enjoy kind of knowing that like we know they're horses. We get it. We love it. Destiny, you want to add anything on that just as we're in the kind of welfare, emotional regulation?
Yeah, I think again, I mean, I'm sure this is a little bit of a repeat, but just that we're putting the emphasis on the horse's willingness and desire to participate over their accuracy of the perfect test. Like, little details are still going to matter, but not without taking the welfare into consideration first. So, like, the horse's mental state is going to be the first priority to everything we do.
Yep. So all of our patterns, and those of you that have looked at them probably already know this, they are the groundwork patterns, at least are performed at Liberty. So no halters, lead ropes, any kind of flags, anything like that. These are all in the rules, which we will share very shortly. We'll have those available on our website. I think that's pretty well understood here. So now we're getting a bit into like the eligibility as far as like if we're just going down the rules. So,
Where are
do you
you
want to
at right this second?
in participation and eligibility, section 3?
Okay, way farther down than
Sorry.
it was. Got it.
If do
Okay.
we if we need to cover if you want to go over anything else that I if I breeze through anything between
Um,
here and there.
Here, I'm gonna just do a
Um,
quick once over. I know, I think we kind of touched on it all. I guess the big thing is like the classes are going to spread out as we go forward into different, we'll call them like sub disciplines. They're not going to be exclusive necessarily to one discipline over another, but that the goal is for the classes to build upon each other so that we can really create almost just like a guideline, a little handhold to like work through the different things that are positive reinforcement. Because sometimes, like we were even talking before we started recording with Marlo, like there's not a lot of like set principles or rules out there for what this should look like, and so it can feel a bit overwhelming. You can get kind of lost as to like what should I be working on, and of course that varies from horse to horse, but hopefully this can give a little bit more creativity and
Kind of,
vision to those that are new to it.
yeah, a little bit of tiered structure without hopefully feeling like you're boxed in.
Trapped, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a better way to
Um,
say that. I was getting there.
So, okay, you ready to move into sort of the eligibility
Yeah, I think
piece?
so.
Okay, so for our first show, we are just going to have the two patterns, the first two intro patterns. We will also have three separate divisions. So we will have a junior or youth division, which is for participants that are under 18 years old. We will have an amateur division that is designated for people that are not professional, so not accepting income for training. If this is something that you do just with your horses for purely your own recreational enjoyment, you would be considered an amateur if you're over 18. Um, if not, you're considered a youth or a junior. And then we will have an open division that is open to everybody. So amateurs, professionals, juniors can all compete in the open division. There is no age limit. That was one of the questions that was sent to us. So it is open to all of you, everybody. Um, and you can also be new to R plus or positive reinforcement, or you can be very seasoned and, have a lot of experience in it. So we hope to see a pretty wide gambit there. And then horse eligibility, Destiny, you want to get into that a bit?
Yeah, and we touched on that a little bit before of like the big goal is to make sure that we can offer a lot of variety for different horses and kind of create a space where everyone can enjoy being part of this community. Um, and so the big pieces we're looking for is just that the horses are happy in the work and we aren't showing any visible pain, and that they seem comfortable and willing. And so not so much of like sound unsound. Once we get into the more performancey side of it, that will have an effect. But like early on with the on the ground stuff, this can be a place too for like say your seniors that maybe aren't completely sound, but if they can do the job and they're happy doing it, they're absolutely welcome.
Yep, perfect. Okay. And then gets us into the video requirements. So since this is videoed, we are taking some measurements just to make sure that things stay pretty consistent as possible because this is open up to a lot of different scenarios. Hopefully, it's available to people with a lot of different setups. And so we are asking that when you record your patterns for submission, that you record them in one take, that the horse is fully visible through the entire take, and that there are no cuts or edits made to the video. I mean, you can edit the start and the finish if you have a lot of things happening before and after, so that it's not, walking horse back to the barn or whatever it may be. But other than that, it should be one continuous take throughout the entire pattern. Let's see. No added audio, so no music or, any fun stuff. It has to be very serious. Just kidding. But we do want to just hear your natural audio. You can talk to your horse throughout the pattern. Um, let's see. And we need to be able to definitely hear when you are marking. So we will put a recommended sort of time frame for each of the patterns as we get a little closer to the show. But yeah, no slow motion, filters, overlays, or editing. We will maybe have some fun freestyle classes where music might be a thing. We'll see.
Not
Big number.
maybe.
Not maybe. We will definitely have some freestyle
It's
fun
happening.
classes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
And then go ahead,
I was just
Destiny.
going to say, as far as like reinforcement goes, we again are in early days, so these things are going to continue to shift and grow with us. But as of now, we're putting out the loose goal of approximately one reinforcement per movement, of course, with exceptions where the horses need it. But like we want to see horses that understand the job well enough that you're not having to click and treat every little piece, but also they don't need to have every single behavior chained. So hopefully that makes sense. Because like a big part of the judging is like we do want to see when you think is a good time to reinforce. There's no like hard fast rules of like you hit the cone, we want to see a click and treat. We want to see what makes sense to you and your horse and how you're able to incorporate that piece.
Yeah. Yeah. That is going to be something where we may adjust that, but I don't see it getting rigid. I think
Yeah,
it's to us, it seems like any other, you know, aid that you would use if you were riding traditionally or working with a horse
right.
traditionally. Like, when do you think you need to add leg? You're going to add it
Yeah.
when you think you need it, not when someone technically said you should have done it or you should do it
Yeah.
at this letter kind of thing. So, um, we're
My
excited to
thought
see
is, oh, sorry,
the
go ahead.
no, we're excited to see different people working with their horses and meeting them where they're at. That's really, you know, point of this is to be quite fun and to get some feedback and to enjoy the process. So,
Yeah, for sure.
and we do
Um,
have Destiny worked really hard on the diagrams for each pattern and did set up where the camera should be in relation to each of the cones.
which might be
And
changing
it
before the show.
could be adjusting a little bit. We'll keep you posted on that. Um,
So if you're watching this, check
and
in on that before you record.
very important. This is a fluid, evolving situation. Um, and yeah, we just ask that you are kind of doing your patterns in a safe space. So, like, it doesn't have to be a perfectly manicured GGT footing arena. It can be whatever you have, whatever space you have to work with, as long as your horse can be safely at liberty. So, off of the lead line and on their own. So, no other horses or donkeys or um, fun visitors, preferably, throughout your video. Um, yeah. Okay. And then we'll have a place to submit those videos on the website. And then with the entries, I think the entries and the videos we're doing those together, if I remember correctly, right? It'll be one thing. So people will be able to you'll basically do your entry with your video submission. So they'll be kind of tied together. At least that's the idea for now. Um, and we have a little bit more detail in that in the actual rules that we'll send out, but I don't want to get too in the weeds on that unless people have specific questions. Um, when we give feedback, we will, for the first show at least, be emailing out the scores with the judges' feedback, with the written remarks and feedback. We'll email those to you individually, and then we will be announcing and placing the top 6 from each pattern in each division. Um, we will post those on our website. We'll have a scoreboard sort of area that you can go see, and the Facebook as well, maybe the Instagram, but definitely the website and the Facebook. So
Yeah, and
that's how
then
you'll get
ribbons
your.
will be shipped out separately.
Yes, so we are doing ribbons for first through sixth place for this first show. And then we also have our sponsor, Marlo, who's here, who is sponsoring a grand prize for an overall high point score. They will receive a snuffle pasture, which we are going to be talking more about on our Facebook within the next couple of days. But it is kind of like a snuffle mat for horses, and it is pretty cool, all the ways that you can use it. Um, so stay tuned for that because we're very excited to have that
Yes, we
as a
are.
awesome, awesome like high point prize. Um, okay. Uh, Again, recommended equipment, tripod if you don't have a human to film you. Um, I use a
If you do
Pivo a
have a
lot.
human, yeah, if you do have a human, zooming is absolutely welcomed. It's just making sure that we keep horse and handler fully in frame and don't get so zoomed in that we can't tell the context of where you are about the pattern. If you don't, then obviously if you need to set up a camera and you can't have your zoom working, just have it as zoomed in as you can while still containing all of your cones. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be a play by ear for everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah. If there's anything that we can't tell or can't see, we will ask for a resubmission too. So we can get into that a bit later. But yeah, and then also the other thing is using a microphone, like a Bluetooth microphone that clips to your shirt or your jacket or whatever you're wearing. Or like Dusty and I think a lot of times just wear our Bluetooth earbuds that also work like a microphone. If you have those and didn't know that, you can use those. Um, so again, for these, we're getting into prohibited equipment. So no tack for these unridden classes, whips, flags, driving aids, luring or continuous feeding to guide movement. So we want to see you reinforcing. The use of food is obviously permitted. This is positive reinforcement shows. But luring using the food to like kind of get the horse where you want them to go is not something that we allow. Physical contact used to direct movement. Um, this kind of comes into just the awareness piece too of like where your horse is standing. We get into that a little bit later on as well. But we don't want to see you, using your hands or your body to kind of herd the horse around by touching them physically. Ideally, this will be performed with the horse kind of at a consistent distance to the handler. Um, and then, harsh, forceful, or aversive handling, which, we're pretty certain that wouldn't be the case anyways, but it's there nonetheless. Um, okay, you want to get into the equipment quickly,
yeah,
and then we
so
can.
for these first two tests, they're just going to require basic traffic cones, the 28-inch cones. And the only reason we're being picky on the height is because in that second test, we do have the stationary target being placed in the cone. And so having that at a consistent height that's easy for majority of horses across the board is important for us. And as far as the target placed into the cone, we're going to put some more like we need to make that decision as to like if they need to for sure be marine floats or not. But currently, that's what we're basing it off of is using the marine net floats either in white or yellow or whatever people have access to. Mine are super high tech, the ones that I typically use, and they're just on a dowel, good old
Yep.
stick. You just drop them right in the cone. They sit there. It's fantastic, super easy. And then that'll
Yeah.
continue to grow as we go into more advanced patterns. But for right now, We just need the 3 cones and your target.
Yes, we are trying to keep this as accessible and easy as possible, but there are some things that we do have to be a bit stringent on just to keep it consistent across
Some
the board.
consistency. Yeah.
Has a little bit of just a little bit of structure. And the other thing is going to be a mechanical clicker. That's been a little bit of our we've had more pushback than we expected to have on the mechanical clicker thing. But for now, at least, we are requiring a mechanical clicker that is a consistent sound for our judges. We know a lot of people use verbal or vocal bridges or clicks or clucks with their mouth. But again, for the sake of the fact that this is all being submitted by video, our judges are going to be going through lots and lots of video. We want to be able to keep it really consistent for them, at least for as we're starting out. So those are the only things I feel that we're quite set on and a little bit rigid on for now. But it is what is going to make this universally possible for us, essentially. We're
Right.
trying to be as chill and fluid and realize that this is supposed to be a fun thing for everybody. So those are our asks for those just 3 things for now.
And two, I feel
Okay.
like with the box clickers, that's going to be part of the judging criteria early on is that timing of both your bridge and your reinforcement. And so it just adds a little more clarity for the judges, makes that a little bit more black and
Yeah.
white.
And I think you could still use, verbal affirmation for your horse if you want to say, "Oh, good job," or "Yes, sir, that's great,"
Absolutely.
but we can still hear that click, that really definitive click. Um, okay. So, and that gets us right into scoring and judging. So it is scored, each movement on the patterns is scored similarly to a dressage test. So you have a score basically of 0 through 10. So 0 would be a not performed, like the movement did not happen. 10 is excellent, perfect. It was the most amazing thing we've ever seen in our lives, which, like a dressage score, you may not see the 10. So if you're not getting a 10 on something, it doesn't mean that it wasn't done very well. It just means that there's room for improvement, which
Isn't there
99.99% of the
always?
time, there's always
Yeah.
room for improvement. So don't think because if you're not familiar with the dressage scoring, if you're not seeing perfect tens on your movements, it's that's
A
pretty typical.
65 is a good place to aim early on in your dressage experience, just to give kind of reference. Like getting in the 70s is fabulous. 80s, you sometimes don't see in your career. Um, so just kind of like set expectations of like, it's not an A plus of a 90 something is passing, but it will actually be that for these 2 tests, that will be mandatory to move on to the more advanced tests that will be looking for 65s to make that qualifying cutoff.
Yeah, 65 is entirely satisfactory for a score like that. That is a nice score to end up with.
Respectable. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And it gets into a little bit like the tests kind of read out, or the patterns rather kind of read out what the judges are looking for at each step. Um, the collective marks at the end, again, that's where you're going to get a lot of your feedback from the judges. Um, da, 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 da. Okay. Elimination or feedback only scoring. So use of prohibited equipment, evidence of forceful, unsafe handling, repeated signs of significant distress, fear, or shutdown in the horse, failure to meet required equipment standards, incomplete or invalid video submission. So those are cases where you're going to see significant deductions in the scoring, or you may get a feedback only evaluation without placement.
And that
Um,
could be as simple as like your horse still has a halter on. It doesn't necessarily mean like the end of the world, but just because of the criteria, the few pieces that are important, something wasn't followed. And so you're still going to allow your judges' comments, but it won't be scored and placed.
yes, correct. Okay, we went over the placing for this one. And we are also going to be adding in the future a feedback only option. So if you are not super competitive and not as interested in the showing aspect, we will be building out some like achievement based feedback opportunities if you're not really
I'm
interested in the placings.
really excited about some of that. We've got a lot of ideas to make that really fun, both for those that want to compete and those that don't. So, like some more long term achievement goals, as well as the ability to re-enter your classes to get your feedback score or your feedback sheet without necessarily having to be competing. So where you have a place to like see that progress, where you can like truly track the progress you're making with your horse at each individual test.
Yes. Okay. And we went over the publishing of results. Timeline for score release. We are kind of taking that on a case by case basis right now, but I think we are about a week out.
I think our
So our
goal was
judges,
to have it within a week of the actual closing date.
so that'll be this for this show, it'll be the closing date is March 30th. So feedback
It'd be
would
the
be followed up.
6th,
Yeah, like second week of
6th or 7th.
or
Yeah.
first week of June. Yeah. All right, disqualification parameters, we kind of went over those. So it's going to be your welfare violation, welfare violations or, like equipment type violations. So like if your horse is out of frame or if you're well, I guess that wouldn't be disqualification. We'd usually ask for a resubmission in that case. Significant signs of distress, fear, shutdown, escalation of pressure, continued performance despite clear signs the horse is unable to participate comfortably, horse does not appear physically fit. All of these sorts of things would
Which again, we don't really anticipate, but they're there just to add clarity.
Just to sign up, yeah, our safeguards there. Safety or environment concerns. Again, hopefully not going to run into any of that, but and then non-compliance, yeah, for the video aspect of it. So just watch your video before you send it in. And if you have questions, you can always email us or, ask like, hey, is this meeting the specifications? We're happy to let you know before you submit it because there will be, I think, a small resubmission fee just because our judges are going to have to watch it over again and we do have to pay them for their time. So, okay, attire and turnout. Destiny, take it away.
We're going to touch too. So judges reserve the right to prioritize welfare over completion of the pattern, recommend stopping or adjusting the work through feedback, or remove an entry form placing if welfare concerns are present. And that's just basically saying it'll be up to judges' discretion on whether a score or a test makes it into placing or not. Okay, and then you wanted to go to
yeah, I was at
Got
attire
it.
and
Okay,
turnout.
there's a few down. Okay. And so for handler attire, we're going to leave some of this up to discretion for you guys, but we are going to put the emphasis on closed-toed shoes, preferably tennis shoes or boots, long pants. I typically go for full-length shirt with sleeves. We're going to go. We're going to do required long sleeves?
I don't know why full length is in there. I think. Oh wait, full length shirt.
No crop tops, apparently.
No crop
Laura.
tops and tank tops. Yeah, I know. Listen, okay.
Bear with us, okay.
I'm a little bit of a granny, but yeah, t-shirts, fine. Something with a collar, great. Again, this is, in your own environment, but if you want to dress up and you want to go full founding father with the coat and the stock tie and the helmet, do it. Send it. We love it.
Yeah.
If not, jeans, fine. Joggers, fine. Any kind of pants, fine.
Something that looks nice and professional and clean cut within reason. So just finding that balance. And we can probably post some examples too of like.
Well, like Shauna and Jesse, you can see in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stuff they did for us. It's not traditional horse attire, but works just fine. And those are mostly for like safety, especially the shoes. So turnout. Yeah, you want to do that one?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so turnout guidelines. Horses should be clean and well groomed. Braids are permitted, but not required. Protective boots, including bell boots, are permitted. Fly masks and fly boots are not permitted. And that's simply because there's a lot of movement there. And we don't want to be too distracting to the eye when it comes to judging. We do recommend
we need to see their
colors. Eyes.
We need to see their faces. Yeah.
You need to be able to see their face. Joke's on you. Their eyes popping out of their heads. You can't see because they got a fly mask on. We do recommend neutral colors, so something that kind of matches your horse's coat, or just sticking to your dark colors of like black, navy, brown, white if it matches, or at least, looks clean enough. And again, that just goes to not wanting to interfere with the judge's eye when they're watching the horse. And then your turnout should not interfere with the horse's movement or obscure the judge's ability to evaluate posture, movement, or expression, which we already kind of touched on.
And I just want to say, even though I was a little granny about the shirt situation, we are going to have some fun classes again. So we will have classes, sorry, dog in the background, that you can kind of dress up and have fun with. So
Bring in all the glitter.
bring in all the glitter, bring in all the fun. Um, we will have this for you, I promise.
And as those are
Okay.
added, we'll try and make sure that's clear too, as to expectations for each, what kind of falls under what category, where you can get creative and wild, and where we might want to see it just a little bit more cleaned up and professional.
And just a little easier to assess too, kind of the finer
Yeah.
points in some of these, at least the initial tests, the beginning tests for sure. Um, okay, we have a whole glossary of terms here.
Don't
I don't,
know that these
yeah, I
need to
don't
be
think we need
gone
to,
through.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't want to. I think we will put those out there for you all to go over along with all of the rules, but a lot of it is things that we've already covered here. Um, that about wraps it up for the general rules. So you want to go through the submitted
Questions?
questions now and make sure we covered all of
Yes.
those.
Let me pull them up really quick.
Yeah,
I
so
got
I'll start
swapped
first
from.
one while you get that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so cost. For our first show, um, we're going to have an entry fee of $18 per class with a $10 administration fee. So you can do both patterns yourself. So there is, one handler and one horse pair can do pattern one and pattern two in this horse show. Um, and that's,
Can also enter with multiple horses.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you also have the option of cross entering into the open. So if you wanted the chance, it would not be additional feedback. You would still just keep your initial test. But if, say, you're entering the youth or the amateur division, if you wanted an extra opportunity at another ribbon, because I mean, I know there's at least a portion of us that loves ribbons, you can do that too with a cross enter fee. So it would just be an additional entry fee.
so you're rolling over your test or your
Yeah.
pattern, your submission. So you don't have to reshoot it or resubmit it or anything. Um, Reinforcement timing and use of the food and reinforcement. I think we kind of went over that a little bit. We don't care what you feed your horse. Whatever you are usually using with them in sessions is fine. However much you typically feed them in sessions is fine. We don't have any parameters on that for these patterns. So um, reinforce your horse as needed, as you would.
And we
And
kind
that
of touched
also,
on it before. I was just going to say about adding just like an estimate kind of to each one. And again, that's nothing set in stone. We really do want to see how it works for you and your horse, but just so you don't feel so lost of like, am I doing it quote unquote wrong, right? Just to give like an ideal. And you can see too, like in the example videos, they give a pretty good feeling for how often they're reinforcing. So just finding that balance between not having to have all the behaviors chained together or back chained, but also the horse understands the pattern well enough that you're not needing to click every step.
yeah. Um, and Marissa just asked in the chat, multiple handlers with the same horse.
As of right
Yes,
now,
that's
yes, without limitation. And moving forward, the goal is to add more divisions to where we can have some horse divisions as well as rider divisions so that we don't have green horses competing against green handlers or green handlers competing against advanced that kind of thing. But that'll come later on
yeah. And these patterns are we feel pretty confident that a horse could handle doing these patterns
for
multiple
sure.
times. Okay.
Yeah,
um,
especially over the span of 2 weeks.
yeah. Okay. And do treat pouches need to be on the right hip? We recommend it just as a kind of a go-to. It does make it a little bit harder at times. Like if your horse is, sorry about the dogs, if you guys can hear that, they are chasing the cat. Um, um, We recommend that just for kind of continuity's sake, but it is not required. You can have your treat pouch wherever you want, but for us, when we have our horses on our right side, it's right there. And it does make it quite clear for the judges, like if your horse is trying to sneak a little snack. Um, so you might be a little crafty and try it on the left, but you're gonna have to reach over. So recommended treat pouches on the right hip, not at this time mandatory. Uh, and then we went over protective boots in the horse turnout. We were asked about TIP awards in the future. Definitely have kind of our eyes on the TIP specifically, but also some of the other things that we can kind of start building into with future horse shows. And if there's any kind of organization like that that people are interested in us being affiliated with, please let us know because we're looking into that ourselves. The next question was, does the horse need to touch the target in the patterns when it specifies for a target hold or duration on the target, or can they just hover near it? Which we kind of discussed in like the ideal is that they are touching the target. Now you're not going to get like disqualified or anything if their horse doesn't touch the target, but it may affect the score. So the ideal is that the horse is gently holding on the target without moving or, playing with it. But can you hear that? The dogs?
Just barely, just barely.
Okay. Having a great time. But yeah, the ideal is that they're touching and holding lightly for all 3 seconds. Okay. All right, Destiny, I'm going to give you spatial
Of course
awareness.
you are. You love this one.
You didn't want?
Okay, so
Oh.
well, you were asking all the questions earlier, so I just felt right that, about this specific question. Okay, so spatial awareness, handler is aware of horse location and horse is not crowding, ideally within arm's length, but not making physical contact between horse and the human is between the horse's nose and front of shoulder. So I know by just having spatial awareness on the test by itself can feel a bit vague, but basically we're just trying to put the emphasis on that the horse isn't overly crowding the human or in a dangerous distance, but also they're sticking with you enough that they're participating and they're involved, and you want to be able to feed, right? So that's all that is. It's nothing crazy. It'll be more apparent in your right hand turns because we want to see that the horses can follow you and your body language and know to step over to the right without having to have physical contact. So we shouldn't be having to physically touch the horses to ask for that right hand turn.
And ideally, they're sort of maintaining the same respective distance. So everybody tends to work with their horses maybe slightly different places, like some are closer to the head, some are closer to the shoulder. But we do want to see some consistency or again, like the awareness of like, oh, I need to be over here. My horse needs to be over here, and working towards that. Yeah, and make it working toward if you're not at that point yet with your horse, because a lot of people this is brand new for working towards that goal of keeping that consistent spacing. Okay. We went over how results will be announced. Went over awards. Is a reader allowed? Yeah.
Yeah, so someone asked about if you could have a reader, which is a commonplace for dressage tests, that you can have someone reading out the test for you. And the answer is yes. Maybe we try and post a video of an example of that for our non-dressage people so they can understand, because you're going to only read what is on the test. So it'll be the movement itself and this descriptor for the movement and nothing else. So no coaching. We want to actually make it very clear that like coaching is not allowed for your recorded tests because we want to see how you and your horse work together alone outside of a lesson type environment. But we are going to say yes to allowing the actual reading of the test for those that maybe struggle to memorize that piece.
Because we've all, well, I won't say we all, but you and I have been there before.
I'd be the biggest hypocrite if I said no to readers. So as a professional that was showing a lot, I still, at any opportunity that was given, had a reader because there's just too many things to focus on to also memorize a long test.
Yeah. We went into this a little bit before too, but is it okay if your working area is not flat? Absolutely. My working area is very far from flat and lots of trees. It's a whole thing. So no problems there. Again, this was designed so that it's as accessible as possible. And then we went over the age limit aspect too of like, nope, there's no age limit. If your 2-year-old can do Liberty and get through this pattern with a pony or a big horse, great. We love it. Love to see it. Okay, so that I think that's what we got as far as all of the before things. So, if anybody has any questions and you would like to put them in the chat, or I don't know, can you raise a hand on Zoom? I don't know how that works, but go for it.
Yeah, I feel like hand signals within reason. It's going to be, I know this is not like the most black and white answer, but it's going to be based a little bit on like the tone behind it, which is not the right verbiage or perfect verbiage in this scenario. But can you read the question that's in the messages really quick in the chat?
Yes.
Sorry, Nancy, I didn't realize that you had your hand up when I went into that, but
Um, yeah, I think it's gonna depend a little bit. I mean, that's gonna be left up to the judge's discretion if they feel that that's, you know, um, I think it's gonna be kind of an independent situation there, wouldn't you agree, Destiny?
yeah,
So it's something that I feel is probably not ideal. Like we would like to see your horse pretty like happy and chill in their own space and knowing that that's their space to go to. That's where the default position kind of comes in as one of the basics, and then moving from that into the Liberty leading. Um, so again, not ideal, but I don't think it's a like
it'll vary with the
disqualification.
context. Like it's not inherently a negative. I mean, if it's just a hand signal, right? Now, if you turn to your horse and you're like waving and shaking at him, then like that is probably a different story. But if it's just like he starts to walk out in front of you and you have like a, you know, you don't want to be blocking his movement, I guess would be the big emphasis. Um, but if he understands that, like, if my hand goes up and it's next to me to come back, then like that's a correction, which is not wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially in early days, I would say it's probably not an ideal. So you may see marks off on that or like points off on that for the movement itself. The judge may say something about it. Um, and also it's going to be up to the context that the judge perceives it in too. So that is where it's going to get a little bit objective. So I would say it's best if that's something that you can work towards eliminating. But
Eliminating, yeah.
yeah, but if it's something that you feel is necessary in the moment, I'm gonna put that on our judges. I'm gonna say, see what they say about it. If you're not sure. Yeah. All right. Let's go to Nancy.
There, I think I'm unmuted.
You
Um,
are.
good. I had 4 questions, but they ought to be really quick ones.
Okay.
The box clicker, you mentioned box clicker. Are the other types of clickers like the iClick okay? They have the little
I'm not,
button on them.
yeah, I'm sure that's
Yeah, pretty much any mechanical clicker should be fine as long
Okay.
as you can watch your video back and it is distinct.
audible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Next question was, I always feed with the hand that's away from the horse, the outside hand, which means that reaching across to the treat pouch is a bit of a awkward thing. Is that a problem?
I don't think
I wouldn't
so.
say a problem as much as like, not that you asked for my advice. I mean, I guess you kind of did in a scenario. Yeah. It may be worth exploring simply because having to reach across your body, regardless of where you have your food pouch, like, so by feeding with my right hand from my right hip, it's accessible and I'm making sure to help keep my horse straight. Because if he's watching my hand and my hand's going over here, or on left hand over here and having to reach across, I'm almost encouraging and creating like this draw. So no, I wouldn't say it's wrong, especially I'm sure we have left-handed people that maybe that's what they do too. I
Yeah,
don't have a
so
problem
yeah,
with it,
okay.
but it may be worth playing with
Yeah,
if you
I,
wanted
I
to.
generally keep my treat pouch on the outside too, just
Yeah.
because I feed with the outside
Yeah.
hand. But
Okay.
okay, third question, right hand turns. I don't use my body pressure to turn the horse right. I use a hand signal.
Okay.
And then the horse moves away from me and then I catch up with it. Do I need to retrain that so that, I mean, I know that it's okay to use a hand signal, but do I need to stay with the horse as it turns, or can it just do the turn and then I walk to it?
That's a really good question. I'd kind of be interested in seeing video and almost getting feedback from our judges on that. So I have a
Okay.
better understanding of exactly what you mean. Yeah, I think if that's an option, that would be great so that we can give you a really clear answer.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's like a turn on the haunches, and it's taught
Right.
with going to a target.
Okay. Yeah. No.
So it's taught
So it almost has
positively.
like a spin to it, not in a
Yeah.
bad way, but like a
And
literal.
I can
Yeah.
retrain it so that I cue it and go with the horse, but I kind of like them moving away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No.
pretty
And
neat.
yeah, that's great. No, I'd love to see video and we can get you an answer directly from them. And these are the pieces where like we need questions and feedback because there aren't standards for this yet, right?
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
traditional horse shows, we have some pretty black and white rules, but this is a different territory. Yeah.
We
So,
also
Right.
realized
Right.
at some point somebody made up the traditional horse shows too. So,
right.
Exactly. Right.
you know,
Right.
It's
yeah,
all
we're
pretend.
excited to see how people do things differently and integrate it. So that's awesome.
Okay. So just one more stupid question. This one's the one that
Oh, I doubt
obviously
it.
I haven't been in the show ring for a couple of decades. What is TIP?
Thoroughbred incentive program. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So it's just high point thoroughbred. So like you would have your TIP number and you would note that on your entries. And then if we had, say multiple thoroughbreds entered, whichever thoroughbred had the highest point would get a special award. And typically, I think TIP provides those. So they send them to you for you to send out to your people. And
Oh,
sometimes they do like
yeah.
hats or backpacks or whatever. It's just a breed award, which we have the
Yeah.
option later on to maybe do other breed awards too, except we want to lean into the fun side. So like maybe we'll have some
Right.
mutt awards to go with our Mustang awards and whatever. Yeah. But no, it's a great
Okay, well,
question. That's not dumb
that
at
was
all.
all my questions, and thank you very much for doing this.
Thank
Absolutely.
you for
Thank
being a part of
you.
it.
Yeah. Okay, what else do you guys got? Anything? Anything at all? Any
Trying to write down
questions,
the
comments,
extra sticky
concerns?
questions to make sure we get real answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, if no one has questions, I guess we'll just say we are working on more patterns. We have a lot of different directions that we are trying to figure out which one to go in first. So if you have any, as you're going through these patterns, anything that comes to mind that you're like, this would be amazing. Okay, we're going to go to Marissa. I'm just going to go right to you and stop babbling.
Okay. So, again, since I'm probably going to be signing up students, I guess I am thinking about how that's going to work for entering them. Like, will I be able to submit their entries for them, or do they need to sign up separately by themselves?
I mean, sure. I would just fill it out as them. I mean, I always did my kids' entries for traditional shows, so like I don't really
Yeah.
see why. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll just be however you want to do payment would be the only space for that.
Yeah.
Since we don't have a physical show office for them to come and check out at after the show's over.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I can work that out with them and decide, I guess, if they want to do it themselves, they can do it themselves, or
Right.
they can pay me to pay you, something like that.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
all.
Okay.
But
What
sorry
else?
to interrupt. I'm
Nope,
on my
go ahead.
phone and I can't quite figure out how to raise my hand on my phone.
That's
Also, I
fair.
jumped in late, so I apologize if this question was already answered. But are we only submitting one video per horse, or do we get to do this multiple times?
So you can do one video per test per horse
Per
to
horse?
start, and then you also have the option to have your test roll over into the open. So we're going to start out with just 3 basic divisions of your junior youth division, your amateur division, and your open. So assuming you're also doing the amateur, our open AK professionals are out of luck on that one, but you can roll over into the open if you wanted to for another shot at, the pretty ribbons.
Cool. Awesome. And then you probably already covered, I think you covered the boots question that I have for my big
Yes.
crazy guy.
Yeah.
So as long as he can wear his special outfit, we will
Yeah.
be very excited. So
You
awesome.
got
Thank
it.
you.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will listen to the recording.
Super. Yeah. And just let us know if there's any questions that come up for anybody after the fact. Always feel free to reach out to us via Facebook direct message, or you can email us, and Destiny or one will respond. We're very happy to work with people on this. And if there's anything that comes up that you're having issue with, or this is something that's not working tech wise
it's
on
new
our
for us
end.
too.
Yeah.
So
We're
there's going to be some, growing pains here and there. And we are open to feedback, and we're open to suggestion as far as like if we have, multiple people wanting to see it go a certain way as far as like next classes. We'd love to hear that too, because like we have so many ideas and we've got to pick a few to focus on to release a couple at a time.
And we'd
So,
like to
yeah.
do things that people are excited about participating
For
in,
sure.
because we have ideas and we think, oh yeah, this would be really linear and this would go with that. It doesn't do us any good if you guys are like boring.
Right. We now can't really compete in this horse show that we've created. So it doesn't really actually matter what classes I want to do with my horse.
Right. Yes.
Wah, wah.
Did this because we were like, we need horse shows, and now we don't
So
get
what did
horse
we
shows,
do?
but
We made one that we can't play with. Anyways, that's okay.
Okay. Well, if nobody has anything in the next 5 seconds, I think we will go ahead and wrap this Q&A up. And like I said, if anything else comes up after we sign off, feel free to reach out to us anytime. Share, please, any feedback you have on the patterns as you're working through them, questions that you have that come up, thoughts, ideas, inspirations, dreams that pertain to this. I mean, we'll hear your other dreams
that
too,
don't.
but
May
or
not
they
get back
don't.
to you as fast on those, but
We'll try. We'll try our best.
Try.
So, all right. Well, thank you all so much for being here, for asking questions, for giving feedback. We really, really appreciate it. This has helped us a lot to figure out where our posts and information are maybe lacking in areas that we felt were like, oh yeah, we've covered that. We do really appreciate the insight and the feedback here. So.
And all the support for those that are
Yes.
liking and sharing and engaging with things. Unfortunately, the algorithm does play a very large role, and so we would love to see this be something sustainable. And in order to do that, we need everybody's support, and that can be as simple as a Facebook share, right? Just getting the word out and upping the opportunity for others to see it and participate and join us if they feel so. All the desire to do so. There you go. Some words.
And we're going to try to keep it going and keep it really fun for everybody.
Yeah.
And so it does help to see the enthusiasm, because we have spent a lot of long hours and a lot of long nights working on
Believe
this.
it or not,
And so
putting together simple tests and rule books is not actually easy at all. So that's been a whole adventure and an experience on itself.
oh, alrighty.
I did
has
remember one more question.
Perfect.
Not because I'm trying to keep you guys here forever.
That's okay.
So my biggest hurdle so far, honestly, has been switching my cookie bag location from my left hip to my right hip.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did go over that, and we are recommending the right hip, but we are going to keep it open. So if you want to go back to your left hip, go back to your left hip, enjoy your piece. And yeah. If we crack down on that later, we'll let you know. But
the first time I ran through it with the bag on the other hip, I literally fell down. Like could not operate. So.
That muscle memory
really
gets
muscle memories can be so rude. Yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks, Marlo, for your sweet message in the chat. And we will talk to y'all soon. See ya, hopefully at our first show or sooner. Bye, everybody.
Bye.